While Mary was cleaning up around her husband's grave one chilly autumn day, she stumbled upon something deeply unsettling. Right there on the ground beside his headstone, she noticed a strange, irregular hole. At first, she wasn't sure what to make of it. The cemetery had always seemed peaceful, quiet, and well-kept, or so she thought. But this hole felt out of place. After spending several minutes staring at it, Mary's curiosity soon turned to concern. The hole was quite deep, almost as deep as the grave itself, and wide enough to raise serious worries. Could it be digging too close to Henry's coffin? The thought made her uneasy. Mary wasn't someone who visited Henry's grave every day. In fact, it wasn't unusual for her to go weeks without making the journey. Life was hard and money was tighter. They had never been wealthy, so she focused on her job at the local diner, often working long hours just to keep things running at home. Still, despite the challenges, Mary made it a point to visit Henry's resting place whenever she could, usually on Mondays, her day off. Henry had been buried far from their home, in an old cemetery upstate near his family. The distance made visits difficult, but Mary loved him dearly and never let that stop her. This particular Monday was gloomy, with fall settling over the landscape. The overcast sky and rustling leaves gave the cemetery a somber, almost eerie atmosphere. When Mary arrived at Henry's gravesite, she felt a pang of shame. The grass had grown wild and untamed, choking the area with weeds. Dead leaves lay scattered across the ground, and the headstone looked neglected compared to the others nearby. Mary set to work without complaint. She took out her small gardening tools and began clearing leaves and cutting back the weeds. As she swept away the debris, her eye caught the suspicious hole by Henry's headstone. She moved closer to investigate. The hole was unnervingly deep, and its entrance was larger than she expected. A knot of anxiety formed in her stomach. Deciding not to jump to conclusions, Mary sought out the cemetery custodian to report her concerns. Unfortunately, the man was dismissive. He assured her the graves were well cared for and that nothing could disturb the resting souls. But Mary wasn't convinced. The poor condition of the grounds told a different story. More than that, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Something serious. She called her son for advice. He told her she was being paranoid and urged her to stop worrying about a hole in the ground. He even suggested that Henry wouldn't have wanted her to waste her time fretting over such nonsense. Though hurt by his words, Mary knew in her heart she had to find out what was going on. If Henry were alive, she was sure he would want her to act. Taking a bold step, Mary sneaked into the custodian's tool shed and borrowed a spade when no one was looking. With determination, she returned to the grave and began to dig at the hole. The ground was tough, but Mary persevered. Her frail hands worked tirelessly, prying at the earth bit by bit. Suddenly, an elderly man appeared behind her. Startled, Mary turned to see who it was. The man asked what she was doing. Embarrassed but honest, Mary explained her concerns. To her surprise, the man offered to help. He said his own wife was buried in the same cemetery and he understood the worry. Together they dug deeper. Then the spade struck something hard. Mary's heart pounded in fear. It was Henry's coffin, but it was exposed far too close to the surface. Worse, the wooden side was damaged, with a large hole gnawed into it. Mary's worst fears came flooding back. Grave robbers, rodents, or worse had violated Henry's final resting place. She called the police immediately. They arrived quickly, and after careful investigation, had to bring in heavy machinery to lift the coffin from the ground. Mary was overwhelmed with sadness and disbelief. She hadn't expected to see Henry's coffin again, especially not under such tragic circumstances. Experts examined the damage and discovered two main causes. The coffin was a simple pine box, buried too shallowly due to cemetery negligence. Worse still, rodents had chewed through the wood, exposing Henry's remains. Mary was devastated by the careless way Henry had been buried. She vowed to fight for justice. With the help of the man who had assisted her, she filed a formal complaint and lawsuit against the cemetery. She wanted to ensure no other family suffered as she had. After the case was settled, Mary used the money to give Henry a proper, respectful second burial, this time closer to home, where she could visit often and rest easier knowing he was safe. Her experience is a powerful reminder. Always trust your instincts, and never settle for anything less than dignity and respect for those you love.